Welcome to another episode of Memorable Moments in Topeka History. I'm your host, Harold Gingrich. Americans have long had a fascination with gangsters, gunslingers, and outlaws. There's no end to the list of movies and television shows that have been produced to satisfy our appetite for the struggle between good and evil. While outlaws like Billy the Kid, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Bonnie and Clyde have often been romanticized, in the end, we want these villains to be brought to justice and for good to triumph over evil. Well, following the end of World War I, Americans danced to the Charleston and reveled in the carefree roaring 20s. But those times were followed by what some have called the dirty 30s. The stock market crashed in 1929. It ushered in the Great Depression, massive unemployment, soup lines, and of course, the Dust Bowl. During the early 1930s, gangsters like Bonnie and Clyde, Babyface Nelson, and John Dillinger roamed the Midwest, robbing banks and striking terror in the hearts of people. Well, Indiana's claim to fame is John Dillinger, who was born on June 22, 1903 in Indianapolis, Indiana. In 1924, he robbed a grocery store, was caught, sent to jail. He later escaped, and he and his gang headed to Chicago to put together one of the most organized and deadly bank robbing gangs in the country. Dillinger and his gang were accused of robbing at least 24 banks and 4 police stations. Arrested several times, he escaped, and the escape from Crown Point Jail in Indiana is legendary. John Dillinger was a very charismatic figure despite his dark criminal character. After all, he was good looking, drove new cars, and was surrounded by beautiful women. To some, he was actually a folk hero who robbed from the rich and gave to the poor. On several occasions, he refused to take money from bank customers, saying, "I only want the bank's money, not yours." By his 31st birthday, June 22, 1934, Dillinger had become public enemy number 1, something that is said he was very proud of. Ironically, 1 month later, he would be dead. It was on July 22, 1934, the long arm of the law finally caught up with John Dillinger. Betrayed by brothel madam Annie Sage, he was shot and killed by federal agents of the FBI outside of a Chicago movie theater. Souvenir seekers dipped their handkerchiefs and newspapers in the pool of blood that remained on the streets. Dillinger's body was put on public display in the Cook County morgue. It's estimated that a crowd of 15,000 people viewed the corpse over a period of a day and a half. John Dillinger was buried in the Crown Cemetery in Indianapolis. Dillinger's gravestone has been replaced several times because vandals chipped off pieces as souvenirs. Well, exactly when Dillinger drove through Topeka isn't really clear. We don't know the exact date. Might have been on the same time he was headed for Hudson, Indiana, where he robbed a bank. But what is clear is that people had heard on the radio that he was headed this way, and they were terrified. It's not clear if Dillinger headed east out of Goshen on what is now State Road 4, or whether he took some dirt road. We don't know. From what people have said to us, he came through Honeyville, passing by the Honeyville School, which is now Eden Worship Center, on LaGrange County Road 900 West, headed for Topeka. Several people claimed that they saw him drive through the center of town, but no one really knows for sure. One of the great stories was one that was told by Dwayne Bontrager. His family farm was near Honeyville, and his dad was out in the field working with a team of, it was either horses or mules. The farm was near what today is the Town Line Mennonite Church on LaGrange County Road 1000 West. Well, Dillinger was headed east from Goshen and was being chased by the police. Dwayne said you could hear the drone of the police siren. Here came this car down the road, followed by a cloud of dust. It skidded to a stop right at the end of our lane. Dillinger had a reputation of using farm buildings as a good place to hide from the police, especially if the farm buildings were down a lane and well off the road. Well, All of a sudden, the driver stepped on the gas and the wheels started to spin and the gravel went flying. My dad was so scared, Dwayne said, that he left the team in the field and ran to the house. One of the missing bits of information in the police pursuit is how far into LaGrange County did they chase Dillinger? We don't know when or where the pursuit ended. There's a second story that involves the good folks of Topeka. Many Topeka residents had heard the warning that Dillinger was headed this way. Needless to say, everyone was quite nervous and felt the need for protection. Merle Mishler, whose wife Helen taught second grade in Topeka for many years, was one of those who claimed that he had seen Dillinger drive through the center of town. Well, with Dillinger headed towards town, everyone was looking for the town marshal, Pixley Wimple. But Pixley was nowhere to be found. Now you have to understand, there was no police station at that time. I don't know if Pixley even wore a uniform or carried a gun. But it seems that Dillinger had the reputation of shooting police officers on sight, which may or may not have been true. But apparently Pixley didn't want to be Dillinger's next target. As the story goes, they finally found Pixley located east of town, hiding in a culvert and smoking a cigar. Now, how much of that is true, we will never know. But it sure makes for a great story. All in all, it certainly was a memorable moment in Topeka history. Thank you for watching. We hope that you'll join us again next time and that you'll subscribe to our YouTube channel.